Good morning and good afternoon to everybody. A very warm welcome to today's Learning Lab. For those of you joining a BILT event for the first time, BILT stands for Bridging Innovation and Learning in TVET. The BILT project is co-implemented by UNESCO-UNEVOC here in Bonn with the German Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training, known as BIBB. The BILT project is sponsored by the German Federal Ministry for Education and Research. My name is Sarah Elson-Rogers, and I am the team leader of the Innovation and Future of TVET project at UNEVOC. The topic we will be presenting and discussing today is from Indonesia, and it's called MilleaLab, the all-in-one virtual reality platform for educators and learners. And before we start, I will outline some housekeeping rules. So, as already described, today's webinar is in both English and Indonesian, and you should click on the globe icon at the bottom of the screen and select your language of choice. Now, if anyone cannot see this icon or is unable to access the interpretation, please put a message in the chat and someone on our team will try to help you. Please note this Learning Lab will be recorded. There will be a chance in the lab for you to address the panelists. But if you wish to post a question in the chat in advance, please feel free to do so, and we will ensure questions are raised to the panel. Throughout the webinar, we will also post a link to a short questionnaire to gather your feedback. Please do take the time to fill this out. When the discussion part of the Learning Lab starts, please use the hand raised function to address the speakers. And lastly, given the large number of participants, we ask everyone to keep their microphones switched off. Next slide, please, Aldrich. Today's webinar will run for 90 minutes until 11. It is split into 5 sections. First, the moderator will introduce the MilleaLab case within the Indonesian context. We're happy to welcome Eva Hanau from BIBB, who will be today's moderator. There will then be a presentation from Andis Rizky to explain how MilleaLab works. And following his presentation, we will have a 30-minute panel discussion, which will include Indonesian policymakers and practitioners that actually use the platform. So a warm welcome to today's panelists. Ifano Stiviano from the Indonesian Ministry of Education, Ricardus Eko Indrajit and MilleaLab advisor, Tri Gusama Putri and Mr. Amin, who are both TVET practitioners from vocational secondary schools in 2 Indonesian provinces. Thank you all for making time in your busy schedules to present at today's Learning Lab. After the panel discussion, you will be invited to ask any questions you may have for 20 minutes. Eva and our BILT project partner from BIBB, Michael Schwartz, will then take some time to reflect on the Learning Lab and will close the session. Next slide, please, Aldrich. Before passing the floor to today's moderator, I would like to say a few words introducing the potential of virtual reality in TVET, especially in the practical side of TVET instruction and the learning process. The BIBB publication shown on this slide, Planning the Use of Augmented and Virtual Reality for Vocational Education and Training, describes 11 differentiated uses. I'm not going to go through them all, just to pick out some highlights. Because of the 11, 8 relate to how virtual reality can be used to train learners in the skills they need. They include enabling learners to familiarize themselves with the way things work. For example, VR allows learners to practice their motor skills useful for occupations such as welding. Skills can also be practiced in virtual reality on human avatars, useful for occupations such as nursing. VR provides learners with the chance to practice what to do in unfamiliar and/or risky situations, which can be hard to safely create in the physical world. VR can also simulate routine workplace social situations, such as customer and people management and negotiation skills. In terms of learning, VR can provide ways for learners to wholeheartedly immerse themselves in simulated low-risk situations where the learning process can be gamified and made to be more engaging and thorough across specific tasks. Within a virtual reality environment, those specific tasks can be linked to assist learning across an entire work-related process. For teachers and training providers, a reduction in necessary equipment and materials required for learning can reduce waste and the consequences of error. At the same time, VR as a pedagogical tool provides continuous feedback data to both teachers and learners. This feedback includes individualized, in-the-moment help and assistance to a learner, as well as data to a teacher on where to focus their support for each learner. Learning in the virtual world can also help those traditionally excluded from physical learning spaces, and it can be adjusted for the needs of people with learning differences. Given the potential advantages of integrating virtual reality technology into TVET teaching and learning, an important question is how far the technology itself can be designed to be adapted by the teachers using it, allowing them to adjust it to their own teaching preferences and their learners' observed needs. And much of today's webinar is focused on this particular issue. So let's get going, and I pass the floor to you, Eva. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your introduction, Sarah, and good day to everyone, and thank you for joining us for the BILT Learning Lab today. My name is Eva Hanau, and I'm a project manager at BIBB. And one of my main areas of work in recent years has focused on how digital technologies can be effectively used in TVET practice. In this context, a major goal for me has been to identify international practice examples and share them with the TVET community. So today's BILT Learning Lab offers a forum to share one particular practice that we consider an innovation and learning practice for the use of ICT in TVET, and in particular for the use of virtual reality in TVET. And with this BILT Learning Forum, we would like to encourage TVET practitioners to explore the potential of VR technologies and the benefits. And we look forward, like what was just mentioned beforehand, we look forward to questions from the audience and hope that we will have many questions in the chat that can be discussed later in the live Q&A session. So before we start with introducing the MilleaLab platform and engaging in a panel discussion, I would like to highlight a few aspects of what we mean when we actually talk about an innovation and learning practice. So apart from the goal that we would like to highlight practices here that can be implemented in other TVET contexts, which means that these are transferable, we consider innovation and learning practices that are also relevant, which means that they are designed in such a way that they respond to the specific needs and priority of specific recipients in TVET. Obviously, innovation and learning practices also have to be innovative, which means that they address these specific needs and priorities in a novel way, so they're different from previous approaches. This brings me to one quite important aspect. An innovation is perceived as such because it successfully addresses certain needs or problems that exist in a specific environment. So in order to understand why today's example, the MilleaLab platform, can be considered an innovative practice for education and school-based TVET in particular, I would like to highlight a few facts about the context of the Indonesian education and training system before I hand over to our invited experts today. First of all, it is important to keep in mind that Indonesia is the 4th largest country in terms of population size. Its population totals around 280 million individuals, and half of them is below 30 years of age. That means the country has a very large young population. To give you a better feeling for this figure I just gave you, these 140 million young people account for as much as the entire young population that are under the age of 30 in the 27 EU member states. So on the one hand, this demographic composition can be considered a great opportunity, as it implies a potentially large workforce. On the other hand, this requires that there are enough qualification offers and that schools are sufficiently equipped to supply learners with relevant skills and competencies. Another important factor when thinking about digitizing the education system in Indonesia is geography. Indonesia is made up of more than 10,000 islands, of which more than 6,000 are inhabited. So this fragmented landscape inevitably results in infrastructural challenges and potentially poor connectivity in many parts of the country. Although about 60% of Indonesia's population lives on Java, the most populous island, we have to assume that a significant share of schools and also a significant share of young people in more remote and low-income areas in Indonesia are likely facing difficulties to effectively engage in digital education because they may lack internet access or the necessary digital devices. This is what we commonly refer to as the digital gap, and we would like to explore this issue in further detail in the following discussion. Given this difficult context, the Indonesian TVET system has struggled to evolve as a driver of skilled workforce development. To give you some context, there are various types of non-formal and formal TVET providers. For instance, formal TVET offers at secondary school level include senior secondary vocational schools, so-called SMKs. One constraint of formal TVET offers in Indonesia is that these are largely school-based, which means that students often lack relevant practical work experience. In addition, many schools are constrained in the courses they can offer because they lack adequate facilities, equipment, or skilled educators that can provide practical training. We are, of course, aware that the government of Indonesia has recognized the importance to improve the quality and relevance of the skills imparted by the current TVET system. So the government has initiated ambitious reforms to improve access to and the quality of TVET programs, and also foster a closer link between the supply and demand for skills, for instance, by integrating elements of work-based training into TVET. The geographic and demographic situation I've just described means that the Indonesian education system and the TVET system in particular faces enormous challenges. And given the scale of the task, there's in principle very little room for planners and decision makers to introduce extensive modernization measures, such as digital-based education and training offers. Because a large part of the available financial and human resources are already utilized to ensure the basic operation of educational facilities and the availability of qualified educators. So Sarah just highlighted the opportunities that come with VR technology for education and learning. At the same time, one particular challenges regarding the use of immersive technologies is the fact that development of learning applications usually require significant expertise and often come at high costs. In this context, we look forward to learning from the MilleaLab team and its partners if and how the initiative has managed to address the financial, technical, but also pedagogical challenges by introducing virtual reality technology for education and training in Indonesia. So I would now like to welcome our speakers in today's BILT Learning Lab. I'll start in reverse order. First of all, I would like to welcome Mr. Irfana Steviano from the Center of Data Technology and Information at the Ministry of Education and Culture, in short, MOEC. MOEC has worked to promote an ecosystem for open access education through various initiatives, including public-private partnerships with edtech companies. Mr. Ifana is an instructional technology expert, and as part of his work at the Indonesian Ministry of Education, he has been contributing to the promotion of ICT in education since 2005. Next, I would like to welcome Mr. Echo. Mr. Echo is a well-known education practitioner and IT expert who is a driving figure in the use of digital technology in education in Indonesia. He is also a member of the Association of Teachers, PGRI, and he serves as the director of the PGRI Smart Learning and Character Center, which plays a role in developing the teaching profession. At MilleaLab, he serves as pedagogical advisor. Third, I would like to welcome the two educators that we have invited for our discussion today. First of all, I would like to welcome Mr. Tree, who is a chemistry teacher based in Kota Kampar in Riau province. Mr. Tree is the principal of the secondary vocational school in Kota Kampar, and he is a trained educator and holds a master's in chemistry. Mr. Tree has been actively working as a member of the Indonesian Teachers Association, IGI, to promote capacity development activities for teachers in ICT. And thanks to his activities, he has received several awards for his commitment as a teacher. I would also like to welcome Mr. Amin, who is a teacher for office management automation at Haurwangi Secondary Vocational School in West Java. Mr. Amin participated, and also Mr. Tree participated in MilleaLab's teacher training activities, such as 100 VR pioneer schools and 1,000 VR pioneer teachers in the last years. Now I would like to hand over to Mr. Anders Risky, who is the managing director at MilleaLab and Shinta VR. Mr. Anders co-founded Shinta VR in 2015, and his vision to make virtual reality available as a massive education tool in Indonesia was turned into reality when launching MilleaLab in 2019. And now I would like to hand over to you, Anders, to share more insights about what the MilleaLab platform is all about.
Thank you very much, Eva, for the introduction, and thank you very much for UNEVOC, UNESCO, and also BILT for initiate this meetings and webinars, and also the talk show for sharing how Indonesia, especially with MilleaLab, can solve some of the problem, especially in TVET, for adoption, the technology itself, especially in virtual reality, and how this MilleaLab, which consists of 3D interactive and virtual reality system platform, help some of the teachers, I mean like 1,000 teachers and also 10,000 students or learners accessing the technology itself for learning. So thank you very much again, Aldrich, for the slides. So MilleaLab itself is the all-in-one virtual reality platform for educators and learners. And we have a tagline. You can see this tagline is in Indonesia is Bahagia Belajar, which means happy learning or happy to be learning, because with MilleaLab we want to spread the happiness to the learners and also to the teachers while doing study or while doing learning, and start with the happiness first, because when learners or teachers start their activity with the happy heart, with the lovely heart, so everything after that will be effectively and also efficiently to deliver the educational content itself. So maybe perhaps we can start the presentation for the next slides. Yep, maybe this is a short introduction about the Shinta VR itself. Our company starting in 2015 and established legally in Indonesia in 2016. This is the founders, Akira, me, Andes, and also Andrew. Andrew is our technical director, and yeah, unfortunately, he also graduated from RWTH Aachen in Germany. And also have 2 paper release for IEEE for VR research. So yeah, we already have finished around 100 projects in more than 10 countries so far until now. And one of our product is MilleaLab, because our vision is to utilize immersive technology, especially virtual reality, for democratized education, access, and technology in Indonesia. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we all know that there's so many, I think hundreds of thousands of the research in terms of the using of virtual reality in education. So when we trying to search in Google Scholar, there's more than 200,000 academic journals and conference materials that examine virtual reality use case in education. But from all of this research and conference materials, we can see in the next slide that the conclusion is the effect of VR on student learning is number one is increasing learning focus and improve memory. And also it's improved subject comprehension and increase positive emotion engagement between the learners and also the teachers itself. And also number 5 is increased exploration. So it's all come from happiness. And then this number 1 and number 5 is automatically delivered to the learners itself. Next slide, please. And yeah, this is why some of the example of MilleaLab case studies. We already had done in 10 provinces involving 1,800 students that we measured sample of students using MindWave also. So as you can see here, there's the graphic, the red one and the blue one, and that showed us the brain signals. For red one is for the attention, and the blue one is for meditation. So interestingly, when we use MindWave to record some of the students' brain signals, it's have a similar pattern if we compare for the students while they're playing a game. So the red one and the blue one is always above the effort level, which means they tend to focus, but at the same time, they also tend to enjoy their learning progress. So it's different when the learners is very focused, but they afraid of what next happen. Or vice versa, they feels like bored, or maybe it feels like very sleepy. For example, the blue one will be higher than the red one. So based on this data, and also we also measuring the positive emotion and also the subject comprehension, it's increasing 80% and 94% using MilleaLab, combined with the pedagogy method that we use in the classroom. Next slide, please. And this is also some of the data of our case studies with MilleaLab. We are measuring, we are doing a mini research, or we can say this quasi research, because we have experimental group and also the control group. So then we compare between the conventional methods and also using virtual reality, and we compare the effort class score and also the individual score, and also the effort class score was increased by 38% after using MilleaLab. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we believe when we in Shinta VR make this technology, made MilleaLab, because we very concerned about the education problem in Indonesia, especially for TVET. Education in Indonesia, I think we already agree that we need a technology skilled educator. So to further increase interaction and contact between teacher and student through VR-based learning and decentralized learning resources. Because in Indonesia, there is the area that have big cities which have any resources like internet connection, electricity, and also laboratory. They have all of that. But in some area, some of the schools doesn't have that access. So through virtual reality, we want to make decentralized learning resources to democratize access to learning resources, and we can distribute equally to educational institutions. And also it automatically make the schools is more independent because support schools is minimizing the cost of the education. Next slide, please. And also not only we are giving the technology here in MilleaLab, thank you very much for Professor Eko, our advisors, and also he teach us how to combine MilleaLab, which is the virtual reality technology-based platform, to the pedagogical approach. So MilleaLab is not only as the technological platform, but also technological plus pedagogical platform for the learning in Indonesia. And we also have a various type of learning modes, and MilleaLab can be used in online, offline, or hybrid and blended learning setting. And not only that, we also built our community-based platform, because the education content itself, especially for virtual reality content, it's really need the touch of the teachers. So based on that, we are agree that we have to build the community first before we introduce the technology. So that's why MilleaLab can also be the community-based platform, because we establish close contact with the user community that provide feedback and participate in numerous training activities. Next slide, please. And this is the MilleaLab system. So it consists of a creator and also viewer. So the teachers can use the creator is in very easy way. They don't need to code anything. No single line of code using here, and also they don't need to use the very fancy or expensive personal computer. So they just using a laptop, usual laptop, and then they can just do drag and drop, because we provide them with 1,000 of 3D assets, and also they can put some of interaction just doing drag and drop. Like using Canva for design, they don't need to be a designer can be design something. So same here in MilleaLab, the teachers in Indonesia right now, they don't need to to be very expert in coding, but especially they only need to understand the pedagogical itself, and then they use these tools to create the scenario of the learning. So after teacher create the content in creators and then goes to the cloud server, and the learner or the students can see in the MilleaLab viewers just using smartphone. If you can see, there's a two type of smartphone. The one with the stereoscopic view is that the VR view, and the other one with the non-stereoscopic view is a 3D interactive view. So not all the students need to use the VR, but they can choose between the VR view or the non-VR view. And not only that, after that, MilleaLab also record the behavior of the learner or students while they're learning in virtual world with the dashboard analytic. In the next slide, we can see some of the part of the student behavior data that can be used by teachers to analyze their classroom activity and also the individual activity while there's learner or students doing something or explore something or explore the content in MilleaLab itself. You can see here that we can record the duration of student interaction with the object, the interaction table with the standpoint and the assets, and also with the videos. And we can also detect how many students they may be in doubt when they answer the quizzes, something like that. So all the behavior data we can record here in MilleaLab, and teachers can use this data to analyze. Next slide, please. Yeah, the required device just only need laptop and also the smartphone. It's very simple. So, and also for the internet connection, it's just need only minimum 3G one. We don't need the 4G or 5G, but with the 3G internet connection, it still can run in the very good FPS, maybe until 30 FPS for the smartphone, or the VR is for 60 FPS. And for the MilleaLab creators, is only need a laptop. So that's it. Not need the fancy things for this system. Next slide. Yeah, and the community itself, right now we already train around 7,000 teachers, and also we have 250 VR ambassadors across all the provinces in Indonesia, and we already have 9,000, more than 9,000 content created by teachers. Next slide, please. So this is our partner. We also partner with many institutions. For example, for the Ministry of Education in Indonesia, Molek, and also PGRI for the Teacher Association, and also EGI, and many more partners. Next. Yep, maybe this is one of the video that we can show to you. What we do in 2019 before COVID attacking Indonesia also. So this is one of the video that you can see together. Thank you. So, shall we go to the next slide? Yeah, thank you. So that's all what I can share with all of these participants here. Would love to answer the question later. And then after this, I will give the stage to Eva. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andes, for this very inspirational presentation. Looking at the video you just showed to us at the end, it really confirmed what you started out with. Like it needs a happy heart, and especially teachers need a happy heart to really engage into good education and engage learners into education. So I would like now to continue with the panel discussion in which we will focus a little bit in more detail on the opportunities the MilleaLab platform offers for educators, and also like the opportunities that MilleaLab offers for education and training in particular. And overall, you've just presented very impressive numbers. You mentioned that there have been many teachers trained over the past years, many content that has been created. So what I would like to highlight here to also kind of, improve the understanding of what we're talking about is MilleaLab is a good example of what was just mentioned earlier, that it provides an integrated platform, including an authoring tool. So this means what Anders has just been talking about, that educators can, without any coding skills, create learning content, which is really tailored to the needs of their learners. And there's also learning analytics included, which is of further assistance to educators to better engage and also monitor with the learning progress of their learners. So the first question I would like to ask to all of you is to make a brief statement on what existing challenges from your point of view can be addressed by introducing virtual reality into the classrooms. And I think I would like to start with Pa Irfana from the Ministry of Education. From your point of view, what has been the motivation for the MOEC to partner with MilleaLab? Which advantages did you see when you heard about MilleaLab, and why did you decide to partner?
Thank you, Ms. Eva, and thank you, Ms. Anders. It was very heartwarming presentation and video at the end. It's very effective proof that we can see the impact of the using of virtual reality for education in the classroom. As you can all see on the video, the involvement of the feeling, the one that Mr. Anders also always slogan that he always said to me, that is, it's very important to be happy in learning. That's it. Also the same reasons why we keep on searching, we keep on learning about using new technology and new innovation into our programs. That is why the main issue is we have almost like 407,000 schools, 3.4 million teachers, and 56 million students that need to be addressed. And it's very challenging for us also to address each one of them. That is why initiatives such as the MilleaLab and other stakeholders, other industry that are presenting with the new innovation, new ways of new literacy in technology and digital innovations. We are very pleased, and we are very happy to integrate all these initiatives and try to blend with the programs also. One of the innovations that are also being implemented by the ministry is trying to develop the national educational platform. This is the platform that are hoping that can be helping teachers, students, and other stakeholders to get the new experience, how technology, how to foster the digital skills and digital pedagogy, and to experience with their own students in their own classrooms. So that's why we keep on collaborating, and we keep on initiatives such as thank you for this UNESCO-UNEVOC for this highly important webinar. This is very good opportunity for us to learn also from this webinar, to learn from other stakeholders and other participants also. We are still keep on learning about this new technology. We are preparing the teachers to be the first response teams to be able to master the tools and to harness it for their own.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Irfana. You just mentioned again the scope of the challenge I've been talking about earlier. You gave more detailed numbers. So, I mean, the challenge is really, it's impressive. And So from your point of view, it was mostly the opportunities that a digital platform like MilleaLab can offer by by skipping the the challenges, by addressing like many teachers at the same time, many educators that can support their learning and teaching practice with the help of virtual reality. Mr. Echo, from your point of view as an education and IT expert in one person, what was your motivation? Which challenges did you perceive as the most striking ones in the Indonesian system, and what made you decide to join the MilleaLab team and becoming the advisor for MilleaLab?
Okay, the most challenge faced by the Indonesian teachers or educators is actually changing the mindset. Because if you start with the right mindset, the motivation will follow. I give you the examples. Some of the teachers are really afraid of the VR because they think the VR will replace them. But if we tell them that VR is a technology to help them or to facilitate learning or to enrich the learning journey of the children, it will be a different story. They will have the motivation from inside. But some of the teachers in Indonesia or educators, they have the wrong mindset on how they try to put the position of VR within the education system. So with the right mindset, it will follow the motivation automatically. That is number one. And number two, if you ask me why I'm so eager to promote VR in education, it's very simple. Because every time I go with Andes to several places, I saw the children's smiles. That's it. Those smile is the big energy for me to introduce VR to the children, because they love learning. They love the delivery of the materials through VR. And the most important thing is we want them to become, what you call it, addicted to learn because of the experience in VR. So the one that motivates me is the children smiling, like Ande said, happiness. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Echo. I would actually like to join the next time when you go to schools. I would also like to see children smiling. We'll let you know when I'm coming to Jakarta the next time. Mr. Tree and Mr. Amin, you're both teachers at these vocational schools. We've just introduced an SMK. So what was personally your motivation to get engaged with the MilleaLab programs, and in particular with the training opportunities that they offered? Mr. Tree, would you like to start?
Terima kasih, Bu Eva.
Thank you, Ms. Eva. Our main challenge at school is changing ourselves to keep up with the update and to learn as soon as possible about this knowledge. This VR thing is a very new stuff for us, and therefore it is our important job to develop this further in our school. VR, we are trying our best to develop this VR by teaching other teachers first. We have to make them interested first to learn about the VR before even the students can think about it. But Andes said earlier that children will put a big smile after being taught this. So that's our purpose as well. And we are so grateful that MilleaLab has been supporting us with the facilities and equipment so that we can optimize our learning process in our school. That's all I can share with you, Ibu Eva. I hope this VR facility can be developed further across Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tree. Mr. Amin, which thoughts can you share with us?
Oke, baik, terima kasih Ibu Eva.
Thank you, Ibu Eva.
Tantangan di
With regard to the challenge and the vocational schools in Indonesia, mainly is the inclination towards too much theory in our learning process. That is our challenge in many vocational schools. Using virtual reality technology by using various facilities and do different practices by visiting the industries and others. Using virtual reality truly helps us as teachers to teach our students more optimally. For teachers, since our school is located in rural areas, we truly lack technology. And this is not good because today is the age of technology. We have to be literate of technology. Indonesia has gone into the industry 4.0, which relies more and more on the digital world. By using the virtual reality technology, we as the teachers would like to thank MilleaLab for initiating this idea and introduced this technology to us teachers to understand better about the virtual reality technology because it has been very helpful to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I mean, you just mentioned a very point when you said, a very important point when you said that too much theory in TVET, which focuses on gaining practical experience, is actually a great weakness of the system. So technology offers an opportunity to compensate for that. And Mr. Tree just mentioned a very important fact that leads me to my next questions. He said that first we have to change ourselves, we as teachers, before we can actually impart knowledge and the right mindset to our students. So maybe one question I would like to address to Andes and also to Mr. Echo. First of all, why did you consider it important to complement the MilleaLab offer with teacher training programs? Why did you decide to engage teachers to this extent?
Yep, thank you, Eva, for the question. I always believe, I mean, every members in MilleaLab always believe if we talk about the education, the key points is the teachers. So whatever the tools that we provide to schools, whatever the technology that we provide to schools, is the VR or augmented reality or even hologram or even metaverse or even omniverse or anyverse, right? So whatever the tools or technology that we provided to schools, the key is the teachers. So we always believe the man behind the gun to use the tools. So in case of the virtual reality itself, we consider that the bottleneck problem is the content. So we learned this based on Nielsen data in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, for the year itself. So Nielsen said that the usage of the virtual reality technology besides game and entertainment is on education. But in education parts, the demand is around 86%, but the supply itself is only 53 or 54%. So it's a really big gap between demand and supply. So the education sectors need this virtual reality solution, but the supply itself, not only for the hardware, but also for the contents. Because if we talk about the education, if we talk about the daily learning in schools, especially, so the only one person that in charge in daily activity and in charge heart to heart with the learner itself is the teachers. So that's why we encourage the teachers first, the community first, we train the teachers first before we massively provided this technology to Indonesia, to the schools in Indonesia. So when the teachers have their own community, their own new skills development, and then they can create their learning content in 3D interactive or virtual reality and combine with the pedagogy itself. For example, for the offline learning or online learning, where when the COVID situation it's happened in Indonesia, or in a hybrid learning, all that situation, I mean, all that methods like using technology and also the pedagogy combine each other, and then only teachers can do that. MilleaLab itself, we consists of 80% software developers, but the most interesting part is in the first years we train this, like Indonesian teachers is, there's so many Indonesian teachers that, have so many potentials. So in the first years, interestingly, MilleaLab team developed the VR template by ourselves. And then in the first years after that, when we collect all the templates that create by teachers we train, the interesting part is better than our made. so the templates made by teachers is much better quality than MilleaLab development in the term of the context, in the term of the context. So we believe that when we see that, we really have a strong belief that, okay, teachers in Indonesia should have more and more and more, getting know to this technology, because we just creating the tools and the teachers is using it. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So you just mentioned the combined intelligence that is needed to actually make technology, virtual reality technology, useful for the education context, the combined intelligence of the developers and the educators on both sides. Mr. Ecker, would you like to add something in this regard?
Okay. The world is changing. What does it mean to teachers? It means that the teachers should become lifelong learners, unless they will not be relevant to the students and the environment, and they will be left behind. And the focus of any education initiative is the learners. So who are the learners? What are their characteristics? What are their style, their profile? Today's learners are living in what we call as the Industrial Revolution 4.0 era, where virtual reality is one of the components of the environment. So for us, VR is a technology. But for the alpha, beta generation, maybe VR is not a technology. It's like a handphone for us before. So I always tell to the teachers that, don't worry, the teachers' strategic roles will not be replaced by VR. But the teachers who are not using VR will be soon replaced by the other teachers.
Thank you. This is a great point. Also, like, in order to remain relevant as an educator, it's necessary to further educate yourself and also become a lifelong learner yourself. I would now like to kind of dig deeper into more, organizational questions. We've mentioned earlier that MilleaLab partnered with the government, specifically the MOAC, and also teacher associations to realize these teacher trainings and to roll out the MilleaLab platform across Indonesia. Could you please elaborate on the specific steps that have been taken, Mr. Irfana, on the side of the Indonesian government to implement VR into the classrooms?
So thank you. So basically, in the brief from the President of Jokowi in the 5 steps of accelerating digital transformations, the 4th steps was to prepare digital talent. which is, as Prof. Eko mentioned, especially by the teachers. And also, this is also empowered by our minister that says the necessity of digitization at school is inevitable. And it will be one of the ways for us to leapfrog in terms of educational quality. So that's why the minister already implement 10-main strategy of Merdeka Belajar programs. The second strategy is focusing on the improving the quality of teachers and school principals. That is why the schools are being targeted. Teacher and school principal as one of the main characters that are dealing with the teachers should be equipped with the new digital skills and digital pedagogy. So that's why observing by working together with other stakeholders, observing the trends and collaborating with the industry will give a valuable insight for us to take measure into the strategic steps that we already implemented in these steps.
Thank you. Maybe I'll skip in a question that has been asked by many participants when they were registering for today's event, is the question regarding costs. You know, we're aware, of course, that MilleaLab has come with costs in terms of, you know, development and setup. So how is the arrangement in the Indonesian case? Who is bearing the costs for the technology, for the hardware, but also for using the MilleaLab platform? I'm not sure who is the right person to answer, but I just throw it and you can decide. Anders, can you say a few words about this?
Yeah, okay, that's I think a punchline question. One of the punchline question. So yeah, regarding the cost itself, I would share in our angles from MilleaLab developers. So the first time we developed this platform is to considers at first about the budget of in average the schools in Indonesia, how much budgets they spend in average, not only in the big cities schools, but also in the you know, like suburban schools. So when we're calculating the budget, and then we realize that okay, we need the technology that really can be fit and can be affordable, with the certain budget of in Indonesia and also in some development country which have a similar climate in Indonesia, especially in TVET. Because in Indonesia right now, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, Pak Irfana, but in Indonesia right now, the budget for the TVET vocational schools is the highest, right? For the education in Indonesia. But I mean, like the high budget itself is not really you know, decentralized. You know, like in some area, in suburban areas, still have some limitation of the facilitation, and also in some area that have you know, very fancy and powerful facilitation in TVET schools. So based on that, we created the technology that can fit with the base price. So you can see on our website that the price is very cheap. So it's not, you know, like it's not like around $1,000. It's not like that. So yes, it's also included in one package with the VR headsets also, and also for the training, and also for anything. We also give the pedagogy theory and etc. And also we have a program that maybe Eva also already mentioned about our program, 100 VR pioneer schools, and also 1,000 VR teachers pioneers in Indonesia. So besides we you know, like commercially you know, selling the subscription, but also we also doing, you know, the fundamental of the building community itself. We facilitate chosen schools to start utilize virtual reality technology in their schools, and then we work together to build some of case studies and some of the quasi research together and to get the data itself. And then year by year, month by month, we already got many of data and many of validation, and we do our development together with MilleaLab developers and also with the teachers in Indonesia. So yeah, I think the schools in Indonesia can get it for free, and for the schools that can afford more, so they can also buy with the affordable price. So yeah, I think we start from there.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone who would like to add something on these very
Eva,
technical questions?
Eva,
Yes.
the value or the cost is actually something's relative. €1 can be very expensive, while €1,000 can be very cheap. It depends on what kind of value do you get. I give you the example. If I buy a €1 technology, but nobody recognize its values, it's very expensive for me because nobody recognize it. But if I buy €1,000 technology, and out of that I got 5,000 value of euros, it will be too cheap for me. So it's just a matter of how do you see that one. It's like today, for example, this is just a joke. If I ask my wife for our anniversary to go to the fancy restaurant, she will say to me, this is so expensive, all of the food. But if we did it before when we were dating and we went to the fancy restaurant, it is very cheap. Why? Because we value the journey, we value the experience. Like you enjoy $50 coffee in the Eiffel Tower, it will be very cheap because what you buy, the experience, the journey. How do you measure the value of children smiling? How do you measure the addiction to learn? How do you measure the parents who say, whoa, my son, my daughter right now enjoy going to school because of something that they learn? So cost is a very relative issue on this one. That's how, if the political said, yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing also very important life lessons. Has your wife is listening? Is she or?
She's next to me.
Good. Greetings to your wife. For my last questions, before we look into the questions from the audience, I would like to talk in a little bit more detail about the experiences that teachers, of which we have Mr. Tree and Mr. Amin here today, have made in using and creating VR learning content. So on the one hand, I would be interested to know what opportunities of this VR platform you have come to personally appreciate. And also on the other hand, what challenges still remain. And we've also invited you to share some clips of some learning content you have been creating. So should we maybe start with Mr. Tree, and maybe we play your clip first, and then you can also comment on what can be seen in this VR screencast and also share your experiences.
Terima kasih kepada pihak MilleaLab yang telah memberikan.
So thank you to MilleaLab. Thank you for providing us with assistance and support. We were included as one of the 100 pioneer schools, and my school even obtained the first rank for the Western region. So this is one of the laboratoriums here that we have in MilleaLab. We don't have a laboratorium yet in my school, but we are trying to prepare VR content as well. So we believe that VR and MilleaLab in this case is a great assistance for us, especially in developing novel and state-of-the-art technology. My school is located in a remote area. People tend to think that this type of technology would require extreme costs. But with MilleaLab, we have received assistance in the form of equipment, and it allows us to develop VR technology in Riau province. And we are also grateful that the VR ambassadors in Indonesia are also working together. So despite of the limited funds, they still do their best. They try to allow as much access to as many teachers as possible so that they can access the MilleaLab platform. And I think this is also one of our homeworks as well at the community level. We try to continuously do development. In Riau province, we also have several initiatives, and we hope that we will have even more activists as well. So we are very grateful, Ms. Eva, Mr. Andes. Thank you very much for making our school as one of the 100 pioneer schools. We are able to enjoy state-of-the-art technology, and it's very amazing for us. So this community has continued to develop. It's developing from the grassroots level. We have exchanged experiences, knowledge, and we can also grow together with the other teachers. And what's important here is that we continuously are interested to take part in these types of initiatives. I believe that by doing that, we can continue to progress, and we will hopefully be able to access the latest technology. So we hope that we can continue to carry out the development that's from the perspective of a teacher. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tree. Mr. Amin, we will do the same for you now. First, we will show the clip of the VR content that you have been creating, and you can tell us and the audience what can be seen there and what experiences you've made as a teacher.
Oke, baik. Terima kasih.
Thank you for the opportunity, Eva.
Silahkan menuju stand poin berikutnya.
So here, I am acting as a teacher, and from my perspective, I need to make my students happy, comfortable, and enthusiastic in their learning process. So I try to prepare a content that is as realistic as possible. This is one of the examples, as you can see here in the video. This is the Pegadaian that we have here in Indonesia. And at the moment, we have some practical lessons as well, where we make visits to the industrial sector as well. So I also try to come up with a way to allow the students to have a real life experience despite the restrictions of the pandemic. One of them is by providing this realistic experience of visiting the Pegadaian. The Pegadaian is the Indonesian state-owned pawnbroker. And my students were very enthusiastic, and I see that their focus has increased significantly. Their memory has also improved. Usually, if we use conventional methods, the students would have lesser focus compared to when we use virtual technology like this. That's all. Thank you, Eva.
Thank you, Amin. This looked very great. And as you've just said, you put a specific focus on creating a realistic environment to encourage students to deal with the theoretical content, which I believe was provided in these little speaking boxes we could see. So in view of the time, I would Thank you for answering my question in this panel discussion. I would now like to hand over to my colleague Jessica, who has been monitoring the chat closely. And I believe that there have been several questions by the audience, and I would kindly ask you to answer these questions. Jessica, over to you.
Hi, my name is Jessica Rosenfeld. As Eva pointed out, I'm a colleague of hers here at BIB in Bonn, Germany. I will actually start us off today with a question that was also collected during the registration. And this is then for our two teachers, so Mr. Amin and Mr. Try. And our audience was very interested in learning about what are some of the best practices and recommendations that teachers can do to successfully introduce VR into the classroom. So what are some entry point things that could be done, such as collaborating, exchanging experiences with colleagues, sharing development of small VR projects, conducting trials, etc. Thank you.
So, okay, I will try to answer that question. Thank you for the question, Jessica. So first, we need to do self-development. Then we need to develop projects. We need to give an example to other teachers as well. For example, in vocational school, we have a computer network teacher. So they are also involved. And we also share the knowledge that we have gained to other teachers, such as science teachers and so on. And in our experience, the science teachers then also use this type of knowledge and material that we shared with them. So this is actually an added value as well for them. And for our performance assessment, this is also actually an added value to have virtual reality. And we also develop a community. So we share with each other. And we have Pa Andes's permission as well to share this type of technology with other teachers in our province. So we start off internally, then we proceed to other provinces. That's more or less the method that we use.
Mr. Amin, is there something you can add?
Iya. Oke, baik. Mungkin sama seperti.
Okay, so I think I would like to reiterate what Pak Tri shared with us. So we started by sharing the best practices internally within our schools. And in my particular school, we have 4 teachers that have undertaken the MilleaLab training on virtual reality. So we shared information with each other because we come from various backgrounds. Some of us used to work in offices, some of us have a chemistry background, civic education, as well as English literature as our education background. And we collaborate with each other. For example, I work together with the English teacher, and we try to combine office learnings with, let's say, English lessons. And with the chemistry teacher, we also try to establish a laboratorium that is equipped with virtual reality. Because our school is located in a remote area. So in this case, we have limited infrastructure and facilities. That's basically the practice that we use. We try to collaborate with each other, and we also give directives on how we can make A, B, C, and so on. So we shared information. We also gave feedback in the learning process by using virtual reality. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for answering the first question. I would like to now pass the floor to Lutz Goertz. He had posted a question in the chat. He was the first one. So if you take the floor, please, Lutz.
Okay, yes, hello. Lutz Götz here from MMB Institute in Cologne. And I have a question regarding CAD data. So if you have the CAD data for a machine, for instance, is it possible to integrate these data into your virtual environments?
Thank you for the question. This course. So nice to meet you here. Okay. So for the CAD, actually, MilleaLab itself, technically, we use the .obj or .fbx files for the 3D. So if you can build from the CAD and then export it in OBJ or FBX, as long as the mesh 3D is not high enough for the smartphone use, because the challenge in the VR, especially for mobile VR, is the 3D mesh itself. So, for example, maybe this bottle, so we can use it low poly, right? But anyone can also make it like high poly. So, in terms of the machine itself, or the data from the CAD design, as long as we already optimize that in terms of the mesh, and then upload to MilleaLab software or MilleaLab platform, and then we have a quality assurance system that will review all the submitted 3D models from anyone, and then if it's passed the quality assurance, in case of the mesh 3D itself and the optimization itself and the texture material itself, and then it can be pop up in the MilleaLab platform. And also many teachers also here in Indonesia, they upload their 3D assets in OBJ or FBX files, and also the schools that have collaboration with us also can request the 3D models itself too, and then our team will develop that 3D. Yep.
And
Thank you.
If I may add, Lutz, you can also benefit from the 3D scanner. Yeah, from the 3D scanner to create the object, as long as it is not too big.
Okay.
Yeah, because you can use your handphone as the 3D scanner.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, up to the very expensive and complicated scanner, because they want to have a better result, yeah, or most complicated objects. So 3D scanners is another thing that you can use for creating the object. The $1 million question that was asked by education environment is, does the graphic smoothness or resolution matter? I'm doing the research on this one. Why? Because if you look into the quality of games like PlayStation or other good games, right? People are really engaged on that one because of the smoothness of the graphics, right? But look into the world of Minecraft and Roblox. Okay, if you look into Minecraft and Roblox, they don't use a very smooth graphic, right? But the children are really engaged with their activities. So what are actually they are looking for? This becomes my research right now on terms of how precise the immerse thing that you need, right?
Well, I think in our case, it's really very precise because we wanted to teach how machines work. And we wanted to show them from the insides. We have a model of a printing machine.
You're correct.
And we have great problems to convert this into other virtual reality environments. But I agree with you that for most of the teaching cases, things like Minecraft and other environments are really great.
Thank you.
I think I have to interfere.
I use my handphone for 3D scanner.
I think I have to interfere at this point because it's we are running the risk of kind of taking a little too technical turn here. Jessica, is there maybe one last question that has been asked by many participants?
Okay. We will go then with one of the questions that was from the registration. I'm sorry to those who had posed questions before, but we are running out of time. So then I will ask a question that many had asked, which was how can learners improve practical skills and social competencies through the VR-based training? Especially because these are core-based competencies that we do see in TVET. So it's very interesting for many of our listeners today. Thank you.
So could I please ask you to make very short statements? Maybe we start with the vocational teachers who are closest to the challenge. Mr. Tree, from your perspective, and Mr. Amin, like, how do you plan to maybe also take the VR platform that you currently use, how you plan to take it further to also focus on the development of social competencies and on practical skills?
First one, we will engage the students to do the practice immediately, to make the content by themselves. After we give them the example or the views, we will share with them how to develop other creative contents. I believe the children will be much more creative than us, the teachers. That's my short answer. Thank you.
Mr. Amin, would you like to add something?
Ya, oke. Rencana ke depannya mungkin
my plan moving forward is quite similar with Pak Tris. We will focus more on the students. We will help them developing the contents, and with regard to the socialization, we'll also combine between virtual reality with conventional learning to build their socialization skills. So we will build and combine two competences, conventional and virtual reality-based learnings, in which we can teach them about socializing and also to practice their practical skills in the real world. Thank you.
Thank you. In case there's no...
Two statements on there. Two statements. How to build competency in VR world. Many people forget that all of good pilots learns in flight simulator environment. So I rest my case.
Good, thank you. So simulating to build practical competence is one of the most important opportunities that virtual reality can offer. If all of you agree, if Jessica, it's okay for you, I would like to wrap up the discussion here. Maybe let me make a few points that I took away from our discussion that we had. First of all, what we've just learned technically, almost anything seems to be possible. Not all of us could understand what exactly is possible, but we do not have to worry in this regard. I think what was highlighted during the discussion is that the main challenges that have led to the use of virtual reality in TVET is a lack of equipment and technology that TVET suffers from, and of course also the huge task that the government faces in providing state-of-the-art education to the huge amount of learners that Indonesia has. I think one of the second main takeaway was that there is a very intricate relationship between using technology but also using it right. And this is why teachers are essential to the learning experience. This requires that they have the right mindset, that they are ready to learn themselves, to become learners themselves, and that they're ready to use new technologies and take their education approach further. But at the same time, as I just said, technology without the right pedagogical approach runs the risk of being of no use. So the involvement of teachers is essential, and this is why MilleaLab decided to train teachers and involve them in the experience. And this also includes, and I found this really interesting, co-creation approach. If I understood Mr. Anders right, MilleaLab has actually developed the platform as it looks today jointly with teachers, because they have profited immensely from the experiences and from the perspective that teachers brought into developing learning content with VR and also using VR in the classroom. So I would like to end here the discussion. I would like to thank all of you for your answers, for taking your time today, for the very lively and also funny discussion that we had. And I also thank all the participants that have been listening to us today. And now I would like to hand over to my colleague, Michael, to make a few final remarks.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the experience of today's Learning Lab, at least as much as I did. I would like to thank our partners at MilleaLab and at the Indonesian Ministry of Education for sharing this experience with us. I think it has been an inspiration for all, especially your motivation and saying you want to spread happiness. And you said that the combination of positive emotion and learning can change the mindset, and that you want to get the young children to get addicted to learn. I think that's a really big takeaway for me from today. And I think I get out of this Learning Lab with a very positive feeling. So thanks a lot for that. I think you showed pretty well that your example of MilleaLab, that such an immersive technology has a great benefit if you can apply it within a society and give added value to educators, students, and schools. And what you also mentioned was that you want to contribute like the democratization of education, which I think is a very inspirational thought. And by recalling the demographic and geographical situation of Indonesia, I think this example showed pretty well how you can probably, without a lot of money, really achieve something very concrete and really activate the young people and get them interested into learning. So therefore, I think it was a very good example. And on the other hand, I think it's also very important to train the educators to build up their VR competence, because if you want to create such approaches, you somehow need to have programs to take the educators with you. I think that's something what you do very well, and you also have your pedagogical concept on that. And as you said, you can't expect every teacher to become a coder, but you can expect a teacher to become somehow affiliated with VR and give this enthusiasm to a lot of the students. Today's Learning Lab was focusing on an innovation practice from Indonesia. We had around 200 participants from around 80 countries. I hope all of them got as inspired as I got. So in case you're looking for more, and in case you are interested on learning more about the topic, I would just like to add 3 resources here. The one is from BIBB, the other are from UNESCO. It's materials in ICT, educator skills, and virtual reality in TVET. Especially the online toolbox brings together a practical guide how to plan the use of AR or VR, and also shows some learning scenarios, and you will find 11 concrete projects. One of them is also the MilleaLab. Then we also have the ICT competency framework for teachers that highlights basically the role of technology that can play if it comes to the knowledge acquisition and the knowledge deepening and creation. And we also have a practical guide for teachers for promoting quality in TVET. And for those of you that are already looking forward to join our next Learning Lab, I would like to kindly ask you that in the next few days, you will receive a short feedback survey of us about this Learning Lab, because we're trying to improve this format. And if you didn't have the chance to click on the link in the chat, it would really help us if you could fill that out, because we want to make our events even better. In the meantime, and if probably not all the questions that you post have been addressed now in the final discussion, please send it to us and we will get in touch with the colleagues from MilleaLab to get them answered to you. In the meantime, I would like to draw your attention to our next online event, which will be held on 2nd of June between 9:30 and 11 Central European Standard Time. It's called Ready to Respond, TVET and Refugees. And in view of the ongoing war in Ukraine and our upcoming bridging event in June, we want to explore successful and innovative TVET approaches from Europe, Africa, and Asia, how to integrate refugees in their host communities and allow them to become productive members of the workforce. And furthermore, we have our first hybrid event in more than 2.5 years, which is coming up between 21st and 23rd of June, and will be co-hosted by the Finnish UNEVOC Center Omnia in the Espoo region. And it will tackle the issue of mapping current trends in TVET for sustainable and digital transformation. For more information on those events, please go to the UNESCO-UNEVOC BILT website. And now, on behalf of the partners at MilleaLab and on behalf of the BILT team, and also on behalf of the other colleagues at UNESCO-UNEVOC, I would like to thank our interpreters for today's meeting and making it possible to have this learning lab in 2 languages. And I would like to thank you for being with us today, and I hope to see you soon. Goodbye.